in Himalaya Publishing House. She has served several administrative positions in Amity University. And Dr. Sachidanand Shukla is obtained his post-graduation in mathematics and statistics computing from NIT Allahabad and his PhD in theory of gravity from NIT Allahabad. He is working as an assistant professor involved in teaching and research in Department of Mathematics, AIAS, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh. Prior to that, he also has worked in DIT University, Dehradun. Owing to this software skills, he was also selected on serve in software companies like TCS, Wipro, etc. He has more than a dozen publications and has authored several books in GTR. He has presented his research work in various national and international conferences. He has guided several master theses and undergraduate bachelor projects and also guide PhD student in AIAS Noida. He is a recipient on prestigious award from Uttar Pradesh government, including facilitated from Honorable Governor of Uttar Pradesh. Over to this session, Ma'am Jayanti Tripathi Ma'am and Sir Sachidanand Sir. Over to you. This. मैम माइक म्यूट है आपका.
Jayanti Pandey, ma'am, you are muted.
Thanks for introducing us. And Jayanti ma'am, my voice is coming to you. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so yes, Jayanti ma'am.
Yeah, now it is unmuted. Thank you so much. We need one small correction. I'm still not associate professor. So rest is thank you. Yes, Sachindra, you can continue, please.
So we can schedule the timings that 10 minutes should be presentation, and then after that 3 minutes for question answer. That will be okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so ma'am, you just call out the names and the topic, and one by one students and participants will come, and then we can do the process. Okay?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Sachindra. The first presentation should be from Raja Rawat on isomorphism classes of transversals. So I request Mr. Raja Rawat to start his presentation.
Yeah. Hello. Hello. Yeah, ma'am. Am I audible to you?
You are audible.
Okay, sure. Thanks so much. Hello.
Sorry. Yes.
Hello.
Yes,
is my slide okay, ma'am? Is it visible clearly?
It is visible.
Okay, sure. Thanks so much. Today's topic on my presentation is on isomorphism classes of transversal. And it's a work done jointly by me and my supervisor, Dr. Vivek Kumar Jain. And following are the outlines of my presentation. Okay, these are the two notations which I have introduced on this following talk. The out of H in G is the set of all automorphisms of G which takes H to itself. And this cardinality of I of GH is nothing but it is the number of isomorphism classes of right transversals of H in G. And tau of GH is the set of all right transversals of H in G. And 4 is nothing but the intersection of all G in G of all conjugates of H. And H subscript S is nothing but subgroup generated by S intersection of H. where S is a subgroup generated by S, and S is a member of tau GH, and that is it is a member of transversal. We'll introduce what transversal is. And if X is a set of all right corsets of H in G, then chi, which is a map in G to sim index of H in G, is a permutation representation induced from the action of a group G on a set X. Okay, this is the following introduction. If H is a subgroup of a finite group G, and we obtain a set S by choosing one and only one element from each right coset of H in G, such that identity, which is the identity element of a G, also belongs to S, is called the right transversal of H in G. Actually, what we do is we take a group, we take its consecutive subgroups, and we form a cosets. In our sense, we take a right coset. And what we do is from identity coset, that is from H, we will take identity element, and remaining cosets, we will take one element representative from each of the cosets, and we will form a set. And after the construction of that set, we will introduce a binary operation on this set as following as, for any xy in S, what we do is, we'll find what is the representative of the coset of hxy in S. That is xy is nothing but S intersection hxy. Okay, for all xy in S. Also, every right transversal of a subgroup, and this S is nothing, this S will get a binary operation defined in nothing but a transversal of H in G. Every right transversal of a subgroup in a group can be given the structure of a right quasi-group with identity. We will show how it happens. A groupoid is a pair SO, where S is a non-empty set and dot O is a binary operation on S. And we call a right quasi-group is nothing but is a groupoid with this left-sided equation having a unique solution for all A and B S. Okay, these are the following model problems which we proposed. First one is if isomorphism class is 5, then index is 6. Just we propose it. Okay? The only primes 3, 5, and 7 can occur as an isomorphism classes of transversal. And if isomorphism classes of transversals cannot be a prime power. If isomorphism class is 7, then index is 4. These are the 4 problems which were tried to be working on it. And out of these 4, we successfully completed this problem. So G is a finite group and F is a subgroup of a group G. Then the number of, and if the number of isomorphism classes of right transversal is 5, then index is 6. We have successfully completed this work. Okay, and we just go some. I'll introduce the table where we have introduced what we call. We have. Hello. Is PDF available, ma'am? Hello.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
visible.
What we did was we computed and used a gap algorithm, and up to group of order 30, we computed all the isomorphism classes of a group up to order 30. Okay. On the extreme left is a group. And these are the conjugacy classes. These are subgroups. This suppose H21 is a subgroup of index 3 in S3, and H31 is subgroup of index 4 in D8, so on. And what we found was, if isomorphism class was 5, the index was 6, and this happened in A4. And again, there is another group. Okay. If isomorphism class is 5, then index is 6. And this happened in special linear to SL23. And one more group. If isomorphism class is 5, then index is 6. And this happened in A4 plus Z2. And more, apart from this, one more observation which we obtained was, if we like take coset with its, if we take a quotient of this group by its code, then the group is nothing but A4. That was one observation. And also another observation is, if you can just look up to the table, there are no prime apart from 3, 5, and 7, which occurs as an isomorphism classes of transversal. If you go through it, it's 3, 5, 7, and you'll find no prime up to order group of order 13. This was a motivation as well for our problem, proposed problem. Okay, just to have a look. Okay, up to this. You cannot have prime apart from 3, 5, and 7 as an isomorphism classes of transversals. Okay. Now we move on to our slide. Okay, so then finally we propose this problem and we try to tackle this problem. And these are the following what we call in Ramji Lal on his paper, he introduced a notion of what we call sigma. A quadruple SS sigma F, where S is a group with identity E, and H a group which acts on S from a right to a given action theta. Sigma of map from S cross H to H, and F a map from S cross H to H. It's called a sigroupoid, which satisfies following 9 identities, right? Again, in his paper, what he has done is, given a C groupoid SS sigma F, there is a group G containing H as a subgroup and S as a right transversal of H in G. So the corresponding C groupoid is SS sigma F. That is, if we have a C groupoid, then we'll have a group in which S will be embedded as a right transversal. In his paper, he has done this. And again, if SS sigma F is a C groupoid, then SO is a right quasi-group of identity. Okay. Then in introduction, what we have just written, every right transversal of subgroup in a group can be given the structure of a right quasi-group. Okay, this was observed from this. Okay, every right transversal. Okay, given a transversal, we constructed a C groupoid, and after the C groupoid, just we introduced a right quasi-group with identity. So, in order to find the number of isomorphism classes of right transversals of H in G, it will be equal to the number of left quasi-groups of Sn minus 1. Okay, and the converse is also true. Given a C group, given a transversal, I can have a right transversal, I can have a right quasi-group, and vice versa. If I'm given a right quasi-group, I'll have a right transversal. And it has done in following paper. Now another work was done by Shukla in Shukla. Every right quasi-group with identity of order n is isomorphic to a right transversal of Sn minus 1. This is actually an observation from these two results, because we have a one-to-one correspondence with quasi-group and transversal, and what he has done is he has just given a right quasi-group of order n, that will be a right transversal of Sn and Sn minus 1. Okay. The number of isomorphism classes of left transversals will be equal to the number of isomorphism classes of right transversals. Okay. So without any loss, we are considering only the right transversal. Following result has been done by Greg Jain, which is not supervisor. If let T and L in tau dx, then a map sigma from T to L is an isomorphism if and only there exists alpha in symmetry group n minus 1 such that our conjugate of P is L. That is, we act a group. That is, we have a conjugate action. Okay. Following result was proposed by Ramji Lal and Shukla. If isomorphism class is 1, then if and only H is normal in G. Okay, and he has done Jain and Shukla has proved that isomorphism class is never true for any group and its conjugative subgroup and its corresponding subgroup. Okay, if isomorphism class is 3, then H is not normal in G and index is 3. However, the converse is also true. Tucker and Shukla has proved that isomorphism class cannot be 4 for any group and its corresponding subgroup. And after that, isomorphism class 4, and only the next number comes was 5, which is worked on. Also, it has been proved that if G is A4, alternating group on 4 symbol, and H is a subgroup of order 2, then isomorphism class is 5, which was also we also computed through gap programming, which I have discussed there. Okay. These are all the existing tools, right? I'm just discussing what the tools which are already available to us in order to prove our result. Mishra and Shukla has proved this following result. If n is the kernel, chi is the permutation representation of G to what we call a symmetric group on index of H in G. The core of H in G, assume that n is not 1 and L is in tau gh, then the quotient map from G to G mod n is a surjective map from tau gh to tau G mod n, H mod n. So the corresponding transversals are isomorphic. In particular, isomorphism class remains same for a group, and for a group, if we quotient it by its core. the number of isomers class will not change if we quotient it with its code. Okay, now we just formulate a minimum counter example in order to prove our result. So to prove the result, that is, if isomorphism class is 7, index is 6, it is sufficient to show that index is not less than equals to 5 and index is not greater than 6 for any finite group G and subgroup H such that isomorphism class is 7. If we can successfully overcome this situation, then index of H in G is not less than equals to 5 and index is greater than 6 is also not possible. Definitely then index will be 6 for IGH equals to 5. Okay. We just use the traditional method which following this paper has adopted and we prove it by the method of contradiction. We claim that the result is false. Then we can find a place GH to be called as a minimal counterexample such that index isomorphism class is 5. Cardinality of G is minimal subjected to index is greater than 6. And we assume that index is also minimal. We call such a pair a minimal counterexample. Okay. Following, if G is a group and H is a non-normal subgroup of a group G, then index is greater than 5 in all those corresponding groups and its corresponding subgroups. Okay, we give a following program. These are the following results to prove. Proposition 1. We prove that if GH is a minimal counterexample and S belongs to tau GH such that S generates G, then out of H and G will act transitively on a set of all transversals, right? Suppose G is a finite group and H is a subgroup such that isomorphism class is 5, then index is not less than equals to 5. Okay, just I'll go back. Our target was to prove index is 6. Then we claim that the isomorphism class is 5, then index is not less than equals to 5. Okay. We have successfully proved this. So proposition 3, if GH is a minimal counterexample, and N be an out of GH invariant proper subgroup of G containing H properly, and K is a member of tau N, then there exists a right transversal of H in G containing K such that S is not equal to KL for every L in tau GH. Basically, this proposition shows that if you give me a transversal in tau GH which is non-factorizable, I can immediately construct a transversal which will be factorizable and which will be non-isomorphic to this. And using this particular proposition, we prove this result. If GH be a minimal counterexample and S belongs to tau GH, and N be an OGH invariant of a subgroup of G, so the H is containing G, then H is normal in G. If we have such a situation, H is containing N is containing G, then H will be a normal in N. Also, we prove that if GH is a minimal counterexample and H and be or GH invariant of a subgroup of G, such that H is properly containing N is containing G, and index of H and N is 2, and we take a member in tau NH to be a subgroup of N. Then we took the set 1, L2, L3 up to LT in tau GN, and H is a member of H which is non-trivial. Then the following T plus 1 transversals are pairwise non-isomorphic, where S1 is nothing but a product of T and L, and SIs were constructed by taking out LIs from S1 and putting HLIs into it up to T times. And ST1 is nothing but taking X from TL and introducing HX into it. And if N be an object proper invariant subgroup of G such that H is properly containing N is containing G and NH is 2, and if T belongs to tau NH be a subgroup of N, then index of N in G is 4. And following are these corollary 1 and 2 are the following are the corollaries from proposition 5. Next corollary is if N be an object invariant proper subgroup of G, so the H is containing N is containing G, and index of H in N is 2, and T is 1, X belongs tau NH be a subgroup of N, then all members of tau NH will be a subgroup. If GH be a minimal counterexample and N be an object proper invariant subgroup of G, so the H is containing N is containing G, and suppose that each member of tau NH is a subgroup, then index of H in G is 8. Any two non-trivial elements of H are conjugated in CMET, and order of H will be 3. And if GH be a minimal count example, in N be an object proper subgroup of G such that H is contained in N is contained in G, then no member of tau and H is a subgroup of it. And using all these propositions 7, we were successfully able to prove that if GH be a minimal count example, in N be an RGH invariant proper subgroup of G such that H is contained in N is contained in G, then H generates G for all S in tau GN, tau GH. And using these all 8 propositions, what we showed that if GH be a minimal count example, then G will be a characteristically simple group. Our target was for minimal count example, we proved that G is simple. And to prove G is simple, if we can show that G is characteristically simple and indecomposable, then we are done. So we are halfway down, we have already shown that G is characteristically simple. Now if we can show that G is indecomposable, then G will be a simple group. And if GH be a minimal count example and H belongs to tau GH, and N be an odd GH invariant subgroup of G, so that H is containing N, then S transversal will be indecomposable. And using this indecomposability of transversal, we can show that G will be indecomposable. And hence G is characteristically simple and G is indecomposable, then G will be simple. Then using this characteristics of finite simple group, we were able to prove this particular 2 propositions. If GH is a minimal count example, then the cardinality of all the members of tau GH, which generates G, will be nothing but its cardinality less than n to the power n minus 1 by 16, where m and n are the orders and the index of H and G respectively. And if GH is a minimal count example, then cardinality of all those members of tau GH, which are subgroups, will be less than m to the power n minus 1 by 4. So, then using this entire 14 propositions, we arrive at a contradiction. If GH be a minimal count example, and we have taken the isomorphism class is 5, that AI is I greater than equal to 5, be the isomorphism classes of tau GH. So if S generates G, then S belongs to tau GH. Then by proposition 13, what we can get is m to the power n minus 1 will be strictly less than 5m to the power n minus 1 by 16, which is a contradiction. So all those transversal in tau GH generate G is a contradiction. Now then there will exist a transversal in tau GH which will not generate G. And using this and all that propositions, what we have shown that m to the power n minus 1 will be strictly less than m to the power n minus 1 by 2, which is a contradiction as well. So for what we have formulated a minimum count example, which we have already showed that if isomorphism class is 5 and index can never be 5. We have shown this. Then another what we have showed that if isomorphism class is 5, the index greater than 6 is not possible. Then definitely index will be 6, and that will prove our result. Okay, then definitely index will be 6, that will prove our result. Okay, after proving our result index is 6, we went further and from notation, if chi is a map from G to C, this is a combinatorial representation, right? And if we quotient that, suppose kernel is nothing, if n be the kernel of this permutation representation, then G mod n kernel will be a transitive group. And it will be a transitive group on index, we have already proved 6. Then it will be a transitive group on 6 symbol. Then our target was to prove that if customer class is 5, we proved index 6. Then we went further to prove that G mod n is nothing but it will be isomorphic to A4. Then and our next claim I haven't presented here, but I'll give it verbally. If a quotient with n, then this G mod n will be isomorphic to A4, and it can be seen that of index 6. Okay. What we have shown that isomorphism class is 5 and index 6. We have done. Also, we have a G as a transitive group on S6. So these are the following list of transitive group on S6. Our target was to eliminate apart A4. A4 was to prove we have to prove that our case will be A4, and we have successfully what we call eliminated entire 13 what we call these groups, and finally with some argument which I have mentioned in our slide. So we have eliminated entire 13 groups, and finally we gave some results. We gave one result was we gave that H will be contained in A6, and 5, 4, 5, 6 result we gave, and finally we were successfully able to few days back we proved that G will be isomorphic to A4, and hence this completed what we call our problem, and hence this proved our problem. So these are the references, and thank you.
Thank you, Raja. Any questions from the audience? Anybody? Any questions? So I have one very simple question, Raja.
Yeah, ma'am. Sure.
The question is, what is the most significant implication of showing that, like, that result is very interesting, that the prime numbers that you are getting are only 3, 5, and 7.
Yes, ma'am.
That is really very significant. But what are the implications of that?
Implication, ma'am, actually, if there is a person and that person comes to me and gives me that, okay, this is a group, this is a subgroup, this is, okay, I throw it to you, and its isomorphism class is what we call 5. What can you say about group? And what we said that if you give me a group and its corresponding subgroup H, and such that its isomorphism classes of transversal is 5, then I can claim that index of H in G will be 6. And further we went further, that group will be nothing but it up to 4 phi, it will be isomorphic to A4. That we claim. We give a proper classification of the group. If isomorphism class is 5, that was our target. And this apart from this 1, 2, 3, and 4 are still open. You can anyone can interested, they can work on it, and it holds. It is true, and it is not an easy task to prove. It will take,
That's true.
Yeah, it took me more 1.5 years to prove this result. And
that's true.
Finally, a few days back, we completed this result.
Okay, very good. So, any more questions from anybody? So I think there are no questions for you. It was very explanatory. Everybody is satisfied with the answer. So I must congratulate you for a very good presentation, Raja. Thank you so much. And now I want to invite the next presenter. So the next presenter is, just one sec, let me see the list. Next presenter is Mr. Abdus Salam from AME.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please start your presentation.
Okay, ma'am. I am sharing my presentation. Okay. Very good afternoon to everyone. The title of my presentation is Characterizations of Orders in Groups in Terms of Anti-Fuzzy Ideas. This paper is our joint work with my supervisor and co-supervisor and my colleague. And in this paper, we have outlined these things. First, we introduced the paper, and in introduction section, we have mentioned the motivations, and after that, we have give some definitions in preliminary sections, and main results are in this section 4, that is anti-fuzzy ideals. In this section, we particularly discuss about the anti-fuzzy bi-ideals and anti-fuzzy generalized bi-ideals. And after that, we conclude in this paper and give some ideas for future works.
So in this paper, the idea of anti-fuzzy left-right ideal, anti-fuzzy ideal, and anti-fuzzy generalized bi-ideal are generalized, and with the notion of K star QK quasi-coincidence of a fuzzy point with a fuzzy set, we have proposed some idea of an epsilon curve K star QK anti-fuzzy left ideal, anti-fuzzy right ideal, and epsilon curve K star QK anti-fuzzy generalized bi-ideal in wider semigroup. And in this paper, we tend to focus to suggest a connection between standard generalized bi-ideal and epsilon curve K star QK anti-fuzzy generalized bi-ideal. And by the attributes of this new idea, different classes of regular order semigroup are characterized. Next, we come to the introduction section. A lot of motivations are there in this paper, particularly in 1990. This was introduced the concept of anti-fuzzy subgroup of groups, and the and he initiated the study of anti-fuzzy algebraic structure. And concept of lower level set of fuzzy subset is one of the mathematical methods for studying the anti-fuzzy algebraic structure. So modifying and applying this was idea, concept of different type of anti-fuzzy algebraic structures have been introduced and studied extensively by many authors. Like as, for example, Khan and its co-author obtained relationship between anti-fuzzy generalized bi-ideals and anti-fuzzy right ideals of similarities of left group. And Khan and its co-author also used the characteristic similarities for this anti-fuzzy structure. And in 2016, Zulatha and C. Piritrected characterized the anti-fuzzy subsemigroup, anti-fuzzy generalized bi-ideals, and anti-fuzzy bi-ideals of semigroup by using the subset of a semigroup and closed interval 0, 1, and cross multiplication of this semigroup and closed interval 0, 1. Due to such possibilities and applications, semigroups and related structure is studied via anti-fuzzy generalized bi-ideals and anti-fuzzy ideals. So we come to the some basic definitions which are needed in this paper. If we take any two fuzzy subset of a semigroup, here S is an order semigroup. In throughout this paper, S will denote the order semigroup. If we take any two fuzzy subset eta and xi, then these notions intersection of two fuzzy subset, union of two fuzzy subset, and composition of two fuzzy subsets are defined as follows. Where intersection of two fuzzy subset is defined, if we take U from this set S semigroup, then this intersection would be minimum of eta U and eta xi, and union will be maximum of eta U eta xi. And composition, for define composition, here we have used the relation AU, where AU is the collection of all order pair UV, where this condition relation satisfies U related to VW. And using this relation, composition of two fuzzy subset is defined as if AU is non-empty, then this is defined as cup of eta V and cup xi in W. And when AU is empty, then this will be 0. After this, we define the order fuzzy point, and order fuzzy point is denoted by AU. So order fuzzy point of its order semigroup is defined as this relation. Here we define order fuzzy point in terms of poset, where this notion used for poset that is collection of all those elements which related to this element A. So if an element belongs to this poset, then fuzzy order point is defined as U, and when that element X is not belongs to that poset, then this will be defined as 0. So in this paper, we write AU in eta for this subset AU, when AU subset of eta throughout the paper. And also we mentioned that and this short form will be follows AFSSG for epsilon cup K star QK antifuzzy subsemi group, AFLI for epsilon cup K star QK left ideal, AFRI for epsilon cup K star QK antifuzzy right ideal, and AFBI will denote epsilon cup K star QK antifuzzy ideal, antifuzzy bi ideal, and AFGBI will represent the epsilon cup K star QK antifuzzy generalized bi ideal. So first we define the quasi-coincident. Quasi-coincident of a fuzzy point AU with a fuzzy subset eta will be defined as with this relation. If this relation is satisfied, that is eta A plus U greater than 1, then we call this quasi-coincident AU with this fuzzy subset eta, and this fuzzy point AU will be called K star QK quasi-coincident with fuzzy subset eta if eta A plus U greater than K star, where K star is coming from open close interval 0 1, and in this sequel we denote this notion XU QK eta if this condition satisfied, and XU in cup QK eta if XU in eta or XU QK eta, and third one is XU K star QK eta if eta X plus U plus K greater than K star. Here and this relation is important, K always less than K star, and this is lies between 0 to 1, and using these notions we define the definition of ideal in separate different type of ideals, that is epsilon cup K star epsilon cup K QK antifuzzy left respectively right ideal if these two conditions satisfy, that is these relations XU XYU in eta, that is order fuzzy point XYU in eta imply YU in cup QK eta, then this will be left ideal, and when XU in cup QK eta, then that will be right ideal for this epsilon cup QK antifuzzy. And moreover, when a fuzzy subset eta is epsilon cup antifuzzy ideal, and that is when it is both left as well right ideal, then we call this fuzzy subset as antifuzzy ideal. And bi-ideal will be defined with this three conditions. Here second condition is nothing but the sub-semigroup condition of a order semigroup, that is XYU in eta imply XU in cup QK eta or YU in cup QK eta. Then this will be called epsilon cup QK antifuzzy bi-ideal. And if we drop this condition, second condition in this definition, then we get the definition of generalized bi-ideal, epsilon cup QK antifuzzy generalized bi-ideal. Next we come to the main section. In this section we studied about the epsilon cup K star QK antifuzzy ideal, and particularly antifuzzy generalized bi-ideal and bi-ideal. First we define here the antifuzzy sub AFSSG, that is epsilon cup K star QK antifuzzy sub semigroup if for all U from open close interval 0 1 and any element XY from some semigroup S, if this condition satisfy, fuzzy order point XYU in eta imply XU in cup K star QK eta or YU in cup K star QK eta, then this will be in this fuzzy subset will be called fuzzy sub semigroup. And definition of AFL respectively AFRI is defined with this two conditions, and when a fuzzy subset is both AFLI and AFRI, then we call that fuzzy subset as AFI, that is epsilon cup K star QK anti-fuzzy ideal. And in this case, if we take K star is equal to highest value 1 and K star is equal to 0 in the above definition, then this idea reduced to this condition: epsilon cup Q anti-fuzzy left right ideal. So the idea of AFI is generalization of epsilon cup Q anti-fuzzy ideal in order semigroup S. Next, we define the anti-fuzzy bi-ideal, that is epsilon cup K star QK anti-fuzzy bi-ideal when these three conditions satisfy. And we have constructed an example with support of this definition. Suppose S is a set with these elements m, n, x, y, and this is binary operation defined in Cayley table, and order relation defined one in this Cayley table set. Then this set S with binary operation and order relation forms an order semigroup. And when we define a fuzzy subset eta as follows, then if we take K star as 0.7 and K 0.1, then clearly this fuzzy subset is a AFBI. Next, we define anti-fuzzy generalized bi-ideal, that is AFGBI. That is in previous definition AFBI. If we drop this condition, second condition, that is fuzzy sub-semigroup condition, then we will get in this definition AFGBI. And after that, we prove some theorem, that is AFSSG, that is epsilon cup K star QK anti-fuzzy sub-semigroup if and only if this subset satisfy this condition. And next is an anti-fuzzy left ideal if and only if this condition satisfied, and right ideal if this condition satisfied. After that, we have a theorem, that is AFI. A fuzzy subset eta of a semigroup is an AFI if these two conditions satisfy. That is, here minimum both condition, left condition and right condition both and together satisfied, then this will be if and only if condition. And more interesting things is each anti-fuzzy ideal of S is epsilon cup K star QK anti-fuzzy ideal. However, its converse is not true in general. For example, we construct it is in this example that if we take a set S and binary operation with this table and this order relation, then S form an order semigroup and define a fuzzy subset as follow. Then if we take the value of K star and K as K star is equal to 0.9 and K is equal to 0.5, then by above theorem, this fuzzy subset eta is an epsilon cup, and here K star in place of K star 0.9 and in place of K QK 0.5 anti-fuzzy ideal, but it is not anti-fuzzy ideal, not an epsilon cup Q anti-fuzzy ideal, and not an epsilon cup QK anti-fuzzy ideal. These are illustration. And final theorem here, and that a fuzzy subset eta is anti-fuzzy generalized bi-ideal. Here only these two conditions should be satisfied. Then these are the if and only if condition. And for bi-ideal, and there is one more condition should be there. And interesting thing is each AFBI is an AFGBI, but its converse is not true in general. We have constructed this in this example by taking S as X, Y, Z and three elements, and binary operation in Cayley table order relation in this type. And if you define eta X is equal to 0.1, eta Y is equal to 0.45, eta Z is equal to 0.3, and if we take K star is equal to 0.9 and K is equal to 0.1, then it is very easy to verify that this fuzzy subset eta is AFGBI but not AFBI. Moreover, it is not a fuzzy subsemigroup actually. So when SSG is not there, then it also not there. Next, one more remark is there. Each antifuzzy biideal of S is an AFBI, and each epsilon QK antifuzzy biideal of S is AFBI, but converse is not. Here we first in a first example, if we take the fuzzy subset defined as in first example, then this illustrates that this relation should be less than, but we have here greater than. So it is not an epsilon cup QK antifuzzy biideal, but it is still AFBI. Moreover, it is not an antifuzzy biideal also. And next is interesting result is in case of AFGBI and AFBI coincidence result, that is if we take order semigroup as regular order semigroup or weakly regular order semigroup, then these theorems are coincidence in case of AFGBI and AFBI. That is, each AFGBI of a regular order semigroup is an AFBI, and if AFGBI of weakly regular order semigroup is AFBI. And this theorem is last theorem. In this theorem, we conclude that a subset G of a semigroup, order semigroup S, is generalized biideal of S if and only if a characteristics function defined as follows, that is a characteristic function of a complement of a set A is AFGBI. That is this result shows that if we define a characteristic function of a complement of a set, then this order fuzzy subset will be AFGBI, where RT are from closed interval 0, 1, and with this condition. And this is the consequence of this above theorem. And finally, we conclude that this paper is to enhance the understanding of order semigroups and regular order semigroups by the considering of structural influence of AFBI. In this aspect, we have obtained several characterizations of order semigroup in terms of AFLI, AFBI, AFGBI, and in particular, all the most of the theorem or results, if you put K star is equal to 1, that is the highest value, then most of the result of this paper reduced in the setting of epsilon cup QK antifuzzy biideals and epsilon cup K star QK antifuzzy generalized biideal. And if we put K star is equal to 1 and K is equal to 0, both, then most of the result of this paper reduced in the setting of epsilon cup Q antifuzzy biideals and epsilon cup Q antifuzzy generalized biideal. In conclusion, we have mentioned here the idea for future work that these tools AFLI, AFRI, AFBI, and AFGBI, these obtained in this paper may be proved to be highly instrumental for characterizing different classes of order semigroups, such as regular order semigroup, intra-regular order semigroup, semi-simple order semigroup. That's all. These are references. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdus ji. Are there any questions from the audience? Sachin sir?
Yes, Jayanti ma'am.
Any questions?
Yes, yes. Abdus Salam,
Yes, sir.
your topic is characterization of ordered semigroups in terms of anti-fuzzy ideals. You have characterized this.
Yes.
So what's the advantage of this characterization? Is it solving any problem that was earlier not solved?
Sir, actually, we have enlarged the field. That is, this is only for order semigroup and only anti-fuzzy ideal. But we have enlarged this in terms of anti-fuzzy biideal, anti-fuzzy generalized biideal, and in case of regular order semigroup, weakly regular order semigroup. So these are vast field.
Okay.
Abdus, I have one simple question.
Yes, ma'am.
Since most of the operations that you have used to define groups and semi-groups and continuation of it are standard intersection, standard union, and maximum composition for the relation. Is it because of the convenience, or have you tried any other operations as well for T-norm and T-conorm?
Because of the convenience.
Okay. So others are not tried. Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So it's nice presentation. We must congratulate the presenter. Thank you so much, Abdul.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now
Thank you.
I request the next presenter. Next presenter is Mr. Shubh Narayan Singh on certain semi-group of transformations with an invariant set. Mr. Shubh Narayan.
Yes, madam. Can you listen me?
Yeah, you can present your paper, please.
Please reply. Is my slide place is visible to all of you? Please, madam, reply.
Yeah, it is visible. It is visible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, me. You a chance to present my idea on transformation. So my name is Subnar Singh, and I'm going to present the idea known as uncertain semigroups of transformation with an invariant sets. So before the presenting my idea, I will introduce the notation which are used throughout the paper. Like X is nothing but a non-empty set, and if F is a map from X to X, we'll use this notation. Here argument I will keep left side of the function. This is nothing but we'll write image of element X under the function F. And similarly, this is Y subset of X. What here Y of F of Y we write in this way, and this is nothing but image of Y subset of Y subset of X under F. And this S of X will reserve for the set of all bijective maps from X into X, and T of X will keep this notation for the set of all maps from X into X, and next omega of X will keep this notation for the set of all surjective maps from X into X, and this is the notation. This is the nothing but restriction map of F from Y to Y, and this is the equivalence relation induced by F. This is called kernel of F, and this is nothing but the ordered pair whose images are same under F, and this is the for the set difference A minus B. That is set difference which are element of A but not in B. So these are notation we'll use throughout my presentation, and this is a presentation on the semigroup of transformation. So I'm going to define what is meaning of semigroups. So a semigroup is nothing but a non-empty set equipped with the associative binary operation. Like see, this is one example. Like this S of X, this is a collection of all the bijective maps from X to X. This is a group under composition map, and I think I should mention here that every group is a subgroup. So that's why this S of X is also a semigroup. T of X, this is a collection of all the maps from X to X. This is another example of semigroup under composition of map, and this is another example. Omega of X, this is another example of semigroup under composition of map. I already mentioned that every group is a semigroup, but converse is not true, and this is true. Second and third is a counter example for converse part, because T of X don't form the group structure. Similarly, omega of X don't form a group structure. Now I will introduce these three sub collection of map from X to X. This is T bar X of XY. This is a collection of all those maps from X to X. so that y of f of y is contained y. Similarly, omega of x comma y is nothing but collection of all map from x to x, so that image of y and f is same as y. And third, this collection S bar x comma y is a collection of all those maps from x to s whose restriction is nothing but bijective map on y. And it is clear, we can easily see that these three sub collections also summit groups under composition of map. And one thing we can see that if x equal to y, then t bar xy is nothing but t of x, and omega bar x comma y is nothing but omega of x, and s bar x of y is nothing but s of x. So I write here as a remark. Now come to the next idea. This is the known idea in semigroup theory. This is regular semigroup. I recall this definition. Suppose we have a semigroup. So any element x we call regular in S if there is an element y inside S such that this composition xyx is equal to x. And I'll use this notation reg of x for the all regular elements inside S. And we call a semigroup regular if all its elements are regular. So these are definition I just recall, and we can easily see that every group is a regular semigroup, and it is no result T of x is a regular semigroup, and this also third one is a no result S bar xy is a regular semigroup. Now we observe here in this paper, we observe that regular part means all the collection of all the regular elements in omega bar xy is nothing but S bar xy. And we see that this S bar xy is already observed as a regular semigroup. That means regular part of omega bar x comma y is a regular semigroup. And we can see that by definition of S bar x comma y and omega bar x comma y, that if both are same if and only if y is finite, and therefore because we have already observed that S bar xy is a regular semigroup, it is already proof result. That's why omega bar x comma y is regular if and only if y is finite. So this is our result. Now again I recall the another concept known as unit regular semigroups, and just going to recall the basic definition on this concept. So suppose we have a semigroup with identity element, then any element x we call unit regular in S if there exists an invertible element or invertible or unit, both are same, from U in S such that x ux is equal to x, and we reserve this notation u rec of x for the all unit regular elements inside S, and we call a semigroup with identity as a unit regular semigroup if all its elements are unit regular. And by definition of regular semigroup, we can see that every regular semigroup is a unit regular semigroup. That means every group is also a unit regular semigroup. Now this is the observed result in 1980 that T of x, this is a collection of all the maps from x to x, is unit regular if and only if x is finite. This result is observed in 1980, and this paper is published in Semigroup Forum. Now, this is one known idea. We are going to use this idea. So just I'm going to define. Suppose we have a set x, and we have an equivalence relation E on the set x. Then a subset T of x we call transversal or cross section of E if each E class, equivalence class, contains exactly one element of T. So this is our results, and then here we characterize the unit regular elements inside S bar x comma y. So see theorem 0.8 that we suppose we have one element f inside s bar x comma y, then this f is unit regular inside s bar x comma y if and only if say difference x and tf size of x minus tf is equal to size of x minus x fx, the image of x under f, for some transversal tf of kernel f such that y is contained in tf. I should mention here that this kernel f is the equivalence relation on x. We have already defined this notation. This kernel f is the equivalence relation on x, and transversal is defined for the equivalence relation. So this tf denote the some transversal of kernel f. Now we observe this result that unit regular part of omega bar x comma y and s bar x comma y are same. That means u rec of omega bar x y is equal to u rec of x bar x comma y. And also we observe this result, s bar x comma y is unit regular if and only if x comma y x say difference xy is finite. And then we observe that omega bar x comma y is unit regular if and only if x is finite. This is another concept that is related to ideal. So what is meaning of ideal? Just I'm going to define ideals of a semigroup. So suppose we have a semigroup S, then any non-empty subset A of X we call left ideal if SA is belong to A for all A inside A and for all S belong to capital S. Also this non-empty subset A we call right ideal if AS containing A for all A belong to capital A and for all S belong to capital S. And finally we call this non-empty subset A as an ideal if it is both left ideal as well as right ideal. In next result, we are going to observe the ideal inside omega bar x comma y. So for that we define this set G of f. This is some complex structure G of f. So we define G of f, this collection, and we observe that any ideal of omega bar xy is nothing but precisely G of f for some non-empty subset f of omega bar xy. Omega bar x. Now, to x, we have already observed that omega bar x comma y is equal to omega of x. So using above result, we just observed that if x is an infinite set, then any ideal of this collection, this semigroup is nothing but the semigroup of all surjective maps from x to x. So ideal of this semigroup is precisely of this form. And then we introduce these two notation. So we choose any set A and a surjective map from A to A. And then using this one, we define n of alpha. Just we are collecting those elements inside A whose size of pre-image of A under alpha is less than size of A. And then after that n of A, we define n of A is the size of capital N of alpha. And then we define another notation G of S comma T. Because in next result, we are going to prove that suppose we have S and T cardinal numbers with these two conditions. S is belong in between 0 and size of y, and T is in between 0 and size of x minus y. If y is infinite set of x, then we observe that G of S comma T is nothing but the ideal of omega bar x comma y. There is a new concept, new idea kernel of a semigroup. Already observed.
So-
We do not, yes, please.
Sorry to disturb you, sir. Can you please sum up it fast? Time limit is exceeding.
Please 2 minutes, please. 2 minutes, please. So this is another concept, kernel of a semigroup. So see, suppose we have a semigroup. So an ideal of a semigroup S we call minimal if there is no ideal of S that is strictly contained in A. And that semigroup S contain at most one minimal ideal. However, if S contain a minimal ideal, then such unique minimal ideal we call kernel of S, and we will denote this kernel by K of S. And this is our last result, that if Y is an infinite subset of X, then kernel of omega bar X comma Y is nothing but J of 0, 0. And finally, if X is an infinite set, then kernel of the semigroup all the surjective map on X is nothing but collection of all surjective maps whose n of alpha is 0. So these are our results, and these are reference we use during writing the paper. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I request, are there any questions? Any question for the presentation from anybody? Sachin, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Just a minute. Yes, Subnarayan Singh.
Yes, sir. Yes, please, sir.
The theorem that you have shown here, the statements, have you proved them? These
Yes,
results are there.
sir. I should mention here that this paper is going to accept in the Asian European Journal of Mathematics. We have communicated this work before 2 months, and we just received a reviewer comment for 2 weeks, and we have replied back and waiting for the final letter.
Okay. Any example of ideal and minimal ideal?
Yes, see, in group structure, the ideal is trivial one, because see the by definition ideal. Go to that case. In group structure, with this idea, I think trivial one, because see, if your S is a group structure, then in this case, it's, I think it's difficult to find the example for this omega bar xy. Please, sorry, please.
Okay, no problem. What do you, Jayanti ma'am?
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Singh. It was a very good presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now I request the next presenter. Next presenter is Mr. Chandan Kumar Vishwakarma.
Yes, ma'am.
Over to you, Mr. Chandan.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, sure.
Hello. Is this visible to all of you?
Yes, beta. Yes, Chandanji, your screen is visible.
Good afternoon to everyone. Myself, Chandan Kumar Sharma, going to present the presentation on the title, New Classes of Permutation and Complete Permutation Polynomials and Application to Latin Square. And this work is done under the supervision of Dr. Rajesh Pratap Singh. These are the outlines of my presentation. I will start from the introduction. In this section, we will introduce some definitions of permutation and complete permutation polynomial. Here, a polynomial f over fq is called permutation polynomial of fq if the induced mapping sending c to f of c is a permutation of fq. Next, a permutation polynomial f is called a complete permutation polynomial of fq if f of x plus x is again a permutation of fq. Permutation polynomial over a finite field is of great interest due to their wide application in coding theory, combinatorial design theory, and cryptography, And for example, we can see following papers. Next, research on permutation polynomial over finite field have multiple fronts, which include finding new criteria for being permutation polynomial, finding new classes of permutation polynomials and complete permutation polynomials over finite field, finding the number of permutation polynomial over finite field of a given degree, and finding inverse permutation polynomial of a given permutation polynomial. In this section, we will recall some basic definitions that we have used to prove the main result. Definition: let q be a prime power and n be a positive integer. The trace function from fqn to fq is defined by sum of x to the power qi, where I is varying from 0 to n minus 1, where x belongs to fqn. The polynomial Lx, which is equal to sum of alpha I x to the power pi, where I is varying from 0 to k, with alpha I belongs to fpm, is called linearized polynomial over fpm. Here in this section, we will discuss some criteria which are used to prove given a permutation is permutation polynomial or not. First, this criteria given by Hermite, and we can find this on the book of written by Liddell and Drayton, 1997. A polynomial f belongs to fqx is called permutation polynomial of fq if and only if fx has exactly one root in fq. Second, for each integer t, where t is varying from 1 to q minus 2, and p is, does not divide t, the reduction of fx to the power t mod x to the power q minus x has degree at most q minus 2, where p is the characteristics of finite field fq. This criteria is known as HW criteria and introduced by Akbari in the 2011. Let A, S, and S bar be finite sets with order of S equal to order of S bar, and F is a function from A to A, and F bar is a function from S to S bar. And this function can be also shown by following figure, where F is a function from A to A, lambda is a function from A to S, and F bar is function from S to S bar. Here, if both lambda and lambda bar are surjective, then the following statements are equivalent. If f is a bijection on A, then f bar is a bijection from S to S bar, and f is injective on lambda inverse S for each S belongs to S. These two statements are equivalent. That means if we have given a permutation from S to S bar and f is injecting from A to A, then we can clearly say that f is a permutation from A to A. Here we have used a notation CKR, which is defined as cycle of length k, and it is defined as kr modulo n kr plus 1 modulo n dot dot kr plus k minus 1 modulo n, where r is varies from 0 to n by GCD of nk minus 1. There are total n by GCD of nk distinct cycle of this type, and for any polynomial hx belongs to fqn, the power of hx ckr defined as hx to the power q to the power kr plus q to the power kr plus 1, and so on. Some obtained result of permutation polynomials. Some obtained classes of permutation polynomials. First one is, let fqn be permutation finite extension field of fq of degree n, pi x be linearized permutation polynomial over fq which permutes fqn, and hx be a polynomial over fqn. Then the polynomial defined as fx equal to phi x plus sum of h of trace of x to the power cky is permutation polynomial over fqn. The next one is fqn is finite extension of q of degree n, where n is equal to p times m, where p is the characteristics of the finite field. Phi x be linearized permutation polynomial over fq which permutes fqn, and hx be a polynomial over fqn. Then the polynomial defined as follow is a permutation polynomial over fqn. Let fqn be a finite field of degree n, q where q equal to the power m and m is the power of 2, be finite extension of fq. Let CKR denote cycle of length k with GCD of k and 2 is 1 and Hx be a polynomial over Fqn. Then the following polynomial Fx x equal to x plus sum of h of trace of x to the power CKR plus trace of x is permutation polynomial over Fqn. And next result is Fqn be finite extension of Fq such that GCD of n and q minus 1 is 1 and n divides q to the power n minus 1. Then the following polynomial is permutation polynomial over Fqn if and only if sum of ai x to the power I is permutation polynomial over Fq. Let n be a positive integer such that GCD of n and q minus 1 is 1 and Fqn be finite extension of Fq. Then the following polynomial is permutation polynomial over Fqn if and only if sum of ai x to the power I over Fq is permutation polynomial over Fq. And next result is we have some classes of complete permutation polynomial. And the first one is let psi be a linear map from Fpn to psi of Fpn, and Fi belongs to psi of Fpnx and beta I belongs to Fpn, and V belongs to Fp set minus 0 minus 1. Then the polynomial Fx, which is equal to sum of f of Fi psi of x beta I plus Vx is complete permutation polynomial over Fpn if and only if f bar, which is equal to Fix psi of beta I plus Vx is complete permutation polynomial over psi of Fpn. And we have one corollary from this theorem. If we take beta I such that trace of beta I is 0 for all I, then the polynomial Fx, which is equal to sum of Fi trace of x beta I plus Vx is complete permutation polynomial over Fpn. Next corollary we have from previous theorem. If we take beta I belongs to Fqn star such that trace of beta I is 1 for all I from 1 to t, then Fx, which is equal to g of psi x plus Vx is complete permutation polynomial over Fqn if and only if the polynomial sum of gi plus Vx is complete permutation polynomial over Fq. Next we have a theorem. Let beta I belongs to F2R where r equal to n times m such that trace of beta I from F2R to F2nm is equal to 1 for all I where I is varying from 1 to n minus 1 and V belongs to F2m set minus 0 1. Then the polynomial defined as follow is complete permutation polynomial over F2R. The previous results was some classes on permutation and complete permutation polynomial. Next, we have applied some classes of permutation and complete permutation polynomial on the Latin square. So first we introduce what is a Latin square. A Latin square of order n is an n cross n matrix or an arrangement of n symbols in n square cells such that each row and each column contains each symbol exactly 1. For example, a Latin square of order 3 with 3 symbol 1, 2, 3 is a 3 cross 3 matrix and it is drawn as follow. The Korean mathematician Chai Seok Jeong was the first to publish an example of Latin square of order 9 in order to construct a magic square in 1700. Next, we will define some definitions. Orthogonal Latin square. What is orthogonal Latin square? Two Latin square L1 and L2 which have the same set S are called orthogonal if every order pair in S cross S occurs as alpha ij, beta ij for some ij. It means if we have two given Latin square and if we superimposed one and on the other, then if all the other order pairs is unique, then both the Latin square is said to be orthogonal to each other. A set L1, L2 up to Lt, where t is greater or equal to 2 of Latin square of order n is orthogonal if any two distinct squares are orthogonal, called a set of mutually orthogonal Latin square. And for t equal to n minus 1, this set is called complete set of mutually orthogonal Latin square. We have a known result from the book of Kidwell and Dens. For each n greater or equal to 2, set of mutually orthogonal Latin square, kernel T of set of mutually orthogonal Latin square is less or equal to n minus 1. Now we have a question is that the question for which values of n do sets of n minus 1 mutually orthogonal Latin square exist is still open 1. Next we have a known result by Albert and Sandler in 2015. For every integer n that is a power of a prime number, there exists at least one complete set of mutually orthogonal Latin square of order n. Up to the present, no finite projective plane of non-prime power order has been discovered. It means we can also say that up to the present, no complete set of non-prime power order has been discovered. There is a result who relate number of mutually orthogonal Latin square to projective plane, and here I will not discuss about projective plane. So I am saying that up to the present, no complete set of non-prime power order has been discovered. Some obtained results on mutually orthogonal Latin square. Let L denote the set of all linearized polynomial over Fq and permutes Fqn such that for any two L1, L2 belongs to L, their difference is again permutation of Fqn. Then we have a theorem, the set S, g of trace of x plus phi x such that phi belongs to capital L. This collection is the set of mutually orthogonal Latin square of order q to the power n, where gx belongs to Fqn. Next we have a result, let Fpn be finite extension of Fp of degree n, where n is the prime power. Let L1 and L2 be two linearized polynomial. Then, and if we define two Latin square q1 and q2 such that q1 of xy equal to L1x plus L1 inverse y and q2 of xy is equal to L2x plus L2 inverse y, then both q1 and q2 are orthogonal Latin square if and only if sum of ai or sum of bi both not congruent to 0 modulo p, and sum of where I varying from 0 to n minus 1 and sum of ak at minus bk bt not congruent to 0 mod p. We have a corollary from previous result is that if Fqn be a finite field with n equal to prime power where p be an odd prime, let linearized polynomial Lx be Vx and V belongs to Fqx, and for any two L1, L2 we have yes,
sorry to disturb you, please take care of the time limit.
Yes ma'am, this is the last one.
Okay, fine.
Only two results have to discuss only. This set S L1 which is q of xy where L belongs to capital L contains q minus 1 by 2 set of mutually orthogonal Latin square of order p to the power n. And the last result we have Fpn be finite extension of Fp of degree n where n is the prime power, and L1, L2 and L3 are linearized polynomials such that we have L3 equal to L1 composition L2, or let Fx be a polynomial over Fpn and F be a polynomial such that 0 is the only root. Then Q1 and Q2 as defined are orthogonal if and only if x times L3x permutes Fpn. These are the references. You can find some. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chandan. Nice presentation. Now I request audience to ask questions if they have any. Sachin sir, any question from your side?
Yes, Chandan Kumar ji.
Yes, sir.
The set that you have taken Fqn In that set, Q and N should be powers of 2, some powers of 2,
Yes, sir.
as
Yes.
you have taken.
Q,
What
Q is
is
also a prime power, where 2 is even power, and N is again a even power.
why it is so?
Because, sir, there is a special characterization of that field. We have a corollary that I am not discussed in this section. In that we have there is a paper in that prove that given a linearized polynomial, when it will be permutation, that is, given a polynomial, we have a condition that sum of coefficient of that linearized polynomial should not be equal to 0. And using that terminology, we have obtained some mutually orthogonal Latin square or applied to some permutation polynomials.
Okay. Just in simple words, what are mutually orthogonal Latin squares?
Two Latin square are said to be mutually orthogonal. It means if we have two Latin square, if we superimposed one from another, then clearly we have a two order pair. First coordinate will be come from first Latin square and second from other. And if these ordered pairs are unique, it means there is no repetition of order pair, then these two Latin square are said to be orthogonal. Suppose we have a Latin square on n symbol and another is n symbol, and if we superimpose to one to another, and if we got all the order pairs of n cross n, then we say that these two Latin square are orthogonal.
Okay, Chandraji.
Okay, sir. So should I leave, sir?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chandan. It was a very good presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now I request the next speaker, Dr. Manoj, to
Yes,
present his work.
Yes, madam.
Over
Yes.
to Dr. Manoj.
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam. Is my PPT is visible, ma'am?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, madam. Thank you. I am going to start my presentation.
Yes,
the
and
topic of-
time limit should be taken care of.
Okay, madam. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, madam. The topic of my presentation is some results on institutionistic ST fuzzy HV subgroups of HV groups. The contents of my presentation are first abstract, then introduction, then preliminaries, main results and differences. Come to the abstract. In this paper, we apply the concept of institutionistic fuzzy set to HV groups. The notion of an institutionistic ST fuzzy HV subgroups of an HV group is introduced and some related properties are investigated. Keywords are HV groups, HV subgroups, fuzzy HV groups, fuzzy HV subgroups, and then institutionistic ST fuzzy HV subgroups. Introduction. The concept of algebraic hyperstructure was introduced in 1934 by Marty. As you know, algebraic hyperstructure is generalization of algebraic structure in which the composition of two elements is a set, while in composition of two element is a element in algebraic structure. Hyperstructures have many applications to several branches of pure and applied sciences. Vaugelas introduced the notion of HV structures and Dabas surveyed the theory of HV structures. After the introduction of fuzzy sets by Jade, there have been a number of generalizations of this fundamental concept. The notion of institutionistic fuzzy set introduced by Atanasov is one among them. In Biswas applied the concept of institutionistic fuzzy set to theory of groups and studied institutionistic fuzzy subgroups of a group. Jan et al. In 16 introduced the notion of an institutionistic ST fuzzy HV submodule of an HV module. This paper continues this line of research for fuzzy HV subgroups of HV group. The paper is organized as follows. In section 2, some fundamental definition of HV substructures and fuzzy sets are explored. And in section 3, we define institutionistic ST fuzzy HV groups and establish some useful theorems. So these are some preliminaries. So first definition is fuzzy set. Let X be any non-empty set. A mapping mu X to 0, 1 is called fuzzy set. And the complement of mu denoted by mu of C is the fuzzy set in X given by mu C X is equal to 1 minus mu X. Then institutionistic fuzzy set is denoted by A is equal to ordered pair X mu X lambda A X such that X belongs to capital X, where the function mu A from X to 0, 1 and lambda A is function from X to 0, 1 denote the degree of membership and degree of non-membership of each element X belongs to X. Satisfying the condition, the value of mu X plus lambda X lies between 0 to 1. We shall use symbol A mu A lambda in place of this. Then next definition, these are properties of institutionistic fuzzy set. A contained in B if and only mu X contained in mu Bx or lambda X is less than equal to lambda Bx. Second property, A complement is the set of ordered pair X lambda X mu X such that X belongs to capital X. Similarly, third property is given the intersection and this union of two fuzzy sets. This gives the two properties del A, diamond A is given by this formula. Then next give the definition of hyperoperation. Let G be a non-empty set and a streak from G cross G to P star G be a hyperoperation, where P star G is the set of all non-empty subsets of G, where A star B is equal to union of A star B, where A belongs to A, B belongs to B. The streak is called weak commutative if the intersection of these two is not equal to phi, and this streak R star is called weak associative if X star Y star Z intersection X star Y star Z is not equal to phi. Then a hyperstructure G star is known as HV group if these two conditions satisfied, star is weak associative and number 2 reproduction axiom is satisfied. Then next seventh definition is G is any hypergroup or HV group and mu be a fuzzy subset of G, then mu is said to be fuzzy HV subgroups if these two axioms holds. Minimum of mu X mu Y is less than equal to infimum of mu alpha, where alpha belongs to X star Y and for all X Y belongs to G, and second for all X A belongs to G there exists Y belongs to G such that X belongs to A star Y and minimum of mu A mu X less than equal to mu Y. And then I am going to define T norm. Sorry, this is a definition of T norm and S norm. The T norm is defined as a function G 0 1 cross 0 1 to 0 1 satisfying this following condition: T of x1 is equal to x, Txy less than equal to Txz if y less than equal to z, and Txy is equal to Tyx. Then Tyz is equal to T of Txyz for all xyz belongs to 0 1. Similarly, S norm, S we mean a function S from 0 1 cross 0 1 to 0 1 satisfying this condition: S of x0 is equal to x, S of xy is less than equal to S of xz if y is less than equal to z, and third S of xy is equal to S of yx, and then fourth S of xxyz is equal to S of sxyz for all xyz belongs to 0 1. It is clear that T of alpha beta is less than equal to minimum of alpha beta is less than equal to maximum of alpha beta is less than equal to S alpha beta for all alpha beta belongs to 0 1. Then come to the main results. Main results here in this section we give the definition of institutionistic ST fuzzy HV subgroup and prove some related results. So definition is given by if G is a hypergroup HV group. Yes,
sir, will you please put it in presentation mode because I can't read anything what is written.
Okay.
Just put it in presentation mode.
Presentation. So these are the definition. Definition 3.1 is given by this, and then definition 3.2, the norm T and S are called dual if this condition is satisfied, and then from definition 1 and 2 we give a lemma 3.3 T and S be dual norms if A is equal to mu A lambda A is institutionistic ST fuzzy HV subgroup of G, then so del A is equal to mu A C. तो इसको प्रूफ करने के लिए प्रूफ तो अपन यहाँ पर डिस्कस नहीं करेंगे, So these are the proofs. And then next lemma 3.4 is given by if let T and S be dual norms, if A is equal to mu A, lambda is a stochastic ST fuzzy HV subgroup of G, then so is del A is equal to lambda SE and lambda A. The proof is similar as 3.2. Combining these two, we get theorem 3.2. Combining the above two lemmas, it is not difficult to verify the following theorem. 3.5 as let T and S be dual norms, then A is equal to mu A, lambda is an institutionistic ST fuzzy HV subgroup of G if and only if del A and this del A are institutionistic ST fuzzy HV subgroup of G. And by and last corollary 6.3, let S T and S be dual norms, then A is equal to mu A, lambda is an institutionistic ST fuzzy HV subgroup of G if and only if mu A, lambda C are institutionistic ST fuzzy HV subgroup. And these are the references which we have used in my paper. Madam.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a nice presentation. Now I request the audience if they have any question. Anybody has any question? Sir, now I have one simple question for this. Like I'm also working in intuitionistic fuzzy as well as fuzzy. So the what is the most significant aspect that you have got in intuitionistic fuzzy HV group, subgroup?
Pardon, ma'am?
My question was, what was the most significant difference that you have got in fuzzy as generalized, this
As well as
intuitionistic fuzzy
institutionistic
generalized?
fuzzy.
Yeah.
Ma'am, in institutionistic fuzzy set, it is just a generalization and parallel results we can obtain.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other question from anybody? Thank you so much, sir. It was a nice presentation. So now I request the next presenter, Mr. Firdaus Ahmed. Mr. Firdaus Ahmed, are you ready with the presentation? Mr. Firdaus Ahmed. Vineet, Mr. Vineet,
yes, ma'am.
Firdaus is there?
Absent, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am. Firdaus is absent, ma'am.
Okay, no problem. So I must congratulate all the presenters. It was a really nice presentation and everybody has presented it so well. So I congratulate each one of you and thank you so much. And now my request is that Vinny, can you, Sachindri, if you have to say something, or we conclude the session.
The presentations were really nice, and all the participants, they really presented the work that was new, novel, and the ideas were really good. And just congratulations to all.